Do you like crafting in Last Epoch? It's not too bad, right? And I think with the upcoming announcement, it's going to be even a lot better. Hey everyone, this is Thyworm, and lately another post from Sarno dropped and we are discussing it. This time, crafting. Enjoying Last Epoch content? Consider subscribing. Before we start, I wanted to bring the Nexus to your attention. Nexus offers content creators their own store to sell games, and then content creators get a little bit of the profit as well. I have partnered with these guys and curated a small selection of games for you, all games that I've covered on the channel and that I love very much. It is a great way to support content creators, and I would love to simply break even on this hobby of mine, where expenses go to Adobe, music, microphones, games and other gear. So if you're thinking about getting Last Epoch, consider getting a Steam key over there, link below in the description. So, crafting. Let's talk about the current situation, the post, and then wrap it up. Currently, crafting is fine, right? I don't have a strong opinion on crafting as of now. I craft quite a lot when I play. It sometimes seems like success percentages are like the ones in XCOM, where 96% chance to hit an enemy is actually 50%, but apart from that, crafting is pretty decent. And we tend to remember the negatives a lot more than the positives, so I'm sure the percentages are correct. Variance is just something that requires a massive data set, and I'm very familiar with variance as I've been earning a solid income by playing online poker during my college years. In the long run, good decisions pay off. It just requires you to play millions of hands, which I did. Crafting these days is rather straightforward. You collect affix shards, some runes, you press F by default, open up the crafting window, and then you can apply affixes to your items with varying success percentages. Crafting is very deterministic. You always get the affix you want. There is no RNG in that. The only RNG present is whether your desired craft is successful or not. If not, you fracture the item, and there are 3 fracturing options. A minor fracture, where the item keeps all affixes and affix tiers, but it is broken and you can't craft anymore. The damaging fracture, where affix tiers are losing tier levels, sometimes dropping back to tier level 1. And the destructive fracture, which turns items into a white item. Both destructive and damaging fractures are in practice equally useless, so whenever those happen, your item is just vendor trash at that point. It is a punishing system, but it's fair, as the upside, the deterministic nature of crafting, is offset by success RNG. Currently, I'm not thrilled with crafting. I don't think it's bad, I don't think it's great. I'm neutral on the whole thing, and mostly, to me, crafting is a very useful tool to get decent gear. And if you like to push gear to the limits, then crafting is the only way to do that, with of course varying degrees of success. Getting those 4 tier 5 affixes on an item is a real challenge, and it should be. While I think most people would consider the current system to be fine, the reality is that this system is old by now, over 2.5 years old, and a lot has happened in between. We got unique items that you can't craft on, set items, same idea, exalted items offering tier 6 and 7 affixes, and a bunch of class-specific items as well on chests and helmets, which the post doesn't even mention. You could say that gear variety increased a lot. And at the same time, you're still stuck with the damaging and destructive fractures, which are, as I argued, basically the same thing, and they render all items useless. It is specifically those 2 fractures, the damaging and destructive ones, that might get an update in the future. More specifically, these fractures will become a lot less punishing. The damaging fracture would only reduce a single affix by 1 or 2 affix tier levels, which could still leave you with a very decent item. A destructive fracture would reduce 2 to 4 affixes by 1 to 2 affix tiers. On average, that would result in a useless item, but it is a destructive fracture, so I guess that is totally fine. I can tell you from experience that creating a destructive fracture is also pretty tough, as you need to get lucky many times in a row before you even reach the destructive fracture realm. There's a unique I tried to get for a while, the fractured crown, which you can only get by crafting a destructive fracture on a specific item, and it turns out that's extremely hard to do. So I wouldn't worry too much about destructive fractures. Even if you want them to happen, they hardly ever do with how currently crafting is designed. All this breaking and fracturing stuff isn't too fun either, the devs must have thought. What if we introduce the opposite effect? Great idea actually. EHG presents to you the critical success. This is derived from a corporate management term, critical success factors, which you will find in senior management presentations and are supposed to represent necessary elements for a large enterprise to achieve its missions. If that sounds vague, believe me, it is vague. Last Epoch made this a lot more concrete, because a critical success is simply a successful craft where you get a bonus affix tier level upgrade. You can upgrade fire damage from tier 2 to tier 3, and when you get a critical success, the affix tier goes to level 4. Or, not the fire damage affix does this, but another random affix on the item, like elemental damage, suddenly increases in affix tier level. I really like this. It adds a small layer of depth to crafting as well, because you want to make sure that you have items with the right affixes present before you go hard on crafting, so that in case of a critical success you actually gain an advantage on an affix you want instead of on an affix you didn't want. I'm wondering what happens if you gain a critical success and by doing that the item suddenly gets an item level that is higher than your character level. Because affix tier levels determine what level your character needs to be before you can wield an item, and vice versa, your character level determines which affix tiers you can craft. Would this be possible, or is this never an option? Something to think about for the devs. Instability is another thing. I personally feel critical success should not add any additional instability. If it does, the beneficial effects of a critical success are so minor compared to just crafting twice that it feels like almost an artificial feature. And besides, by adding additional instability, you might really screw up your crafting item, because managing instability is one of the key features in crafting a successful item. If suddenly critical successes start adding more instability than you anticipated, it could really put you in a difficult spot despite the extra affix tier you just received. I hope we get some glyphs that increase critical success rates. I would imagine that by default the critical success rate would be 5%, just like a critical strike. Seems logical, but maybe you can boost it by some glyphs or runes. That would be cool, and it would give you something else to farm for as well. Additional effects of critical success have been suggested as well on the forums, like Llama saying that a critical success could reduce instability or simply not add instability. That is a nice feature too. I'd settle for either implementation, and in the long run I don't think it matters too much. It's for sure an interesting read, and this shows that the devs are still looking to improve features that have been around for a while. Crafting is not really a contended feature either, generally speaking. Like I said, most people just use it and are fine with it, but nonetheless the devs are working to keep improving it, which is what makes Last Epoch so great. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. You can also join the Discord to hang out with us, link down below. I hope you enjoyed the video, ladies and gents. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. See you soon, bye bye.